certainly don't want to blow their entire 5-game road trip, but the boys in blue will be in the thick of it tonight in Carolina. We get you set for the Oilers and the Hurricanes here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Tom Gazzola with you alongside the Latino Heat, Hernan, Salas. Matt Cassian, our game analyst, will be by shortly, and we'll be joined by Walt Ruff from the Hurricanes, their team reporter, in about a half an hour. Of course, we highly encourage you to join the conversation. Text us 780-218-9999. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the thumbs up button and get into the nasty chat. And, to those listening on iHeart, TuneIn, EdmontonSportsTalk.com's audio player, we appreciate you. Hope you have plenty of washer fluid out there. Snow's melting. It's gonna be nice and green in a couple of weeks, and that means playoff hockey. And the Oilers are certainly not playing playoff hockey or even stretch drive hockey, having dropped 5 in a row. They are 34-21-4, taking on a Hurricanes team with an identical 34-21-4 record. Both teams playing game number 60 this evening. Of course, GCL Diesel, providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to injectors, fuel pumps to sensors. They are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. Let's bring in the Latino Heat. See how our boy Hernan Salas is doing. Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bueno.
Edmonton. Beautiful day, man.
I know.
Beautiful day for an Oilers win.
Is it going to happen?
Yeah, I called it yesterday. They're going to win this one. This team's got far too much talent, character to go into a 6-game losing streak. So they're going to win, and it's going to be big.
Yeah.
And then everybody's going to be calm. Everybody's going to be very calm.
Yes.
Heading into the trade deadline.
Yes.
No snap decisions. Just calm down, and everything's going to be okay. Oilers will win tonight. Hernan guaranteed.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Not really favorable for them, and for many good reasons. Nanso, do you want to throw a question of the night out right now? I know we're kind of busy putting something together. We have a little snippet from Hello Hockey we want to play. We had Elliot Friedman and David Pagnotta on. It was a trade deadline primer. Go check it out. Lots of great information. Pags with some pretty important news about NHL expansion as well. Friedman with an update on Evander Kane. We're going to play that for you right away here. But do you want to get to a question of the night?
Yeah, I do. I was going to go. A lot of people are upset with the lineup. So I just want to ask our nasties, are you okay with Matt Savoy sitting out this game and Chris Knobloch running it back with a group that he said there was a lot of passengers? Well, not a lot. He said there was a few passengers, and we can all assume who they were. And I get it from both sides. Savoy has done nothing to be out of the lineup, Tom.
Agreed.
But when a team is struggling, coaches usually stick with their veterans, and I think that's what's happening here. I'm not saying I agree with it, but for our nasties, and I'll ask you and Cass, do you think Savoy should have maybe been in the lineup today? And I mean, the only guy you're probably taking out is Kapanen. So because as much as Oiler fans want Henrique and Arvidsson and Brown to sit out, that's not going to happen.
And that is certainly the case tonight. Yes, I would like to have seen Matt Savoy in this game. I think the Carolina Hurricanes, their style, not physically imposing.
Yeah.
More skill, speed. Seems like a Matt Savoy type of game. I think that Savoy getting in there today would have made a lot of sense over a guy like Kapanen, who has struggled among many. Yep. So, yeah, I was a bit surprised about that, for sure.
More offense with him. See what you got. But listen, Chris Knobloch depends a lot on his veterans. He loves the Janmarks, the Podkolzins, all those guys. They're not going to sit out guys. Like it's a stretch to think that maybe one of them at one point, but Adam Henrique's not being healthy scratched anytime soon. As much as he probably deserves it.
And there's those out there that are like, get him out. Get him out. He has not had a good year.
Yeah. And I mean, Kapanen, I think 8-9 minutes, Tommy. I mean, Savoy can can give you a little bit more offense. So it is what it is at this point. But I saw so many fans upset when they saw the lineup this morning. So I thought maybe, can we make some sense of this?
Let us know your thoughts. 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat as well. Okay, is that clip ready to go, Natso?
Here, let's give this a try, Tom. I don't know if this is going to work because it's the format of the clip. It won't take up the full screen, so I kind of put it in between us, and I'm hoping this works. If not, we'll just come back right away, and then I'll do it another way.
Now, are you worried about the video? Because really the audio is the most important thing.
It's, no, I think we should be good. Let's see if this works.
Can I tee it up?
Yes.
All right, so we had Elliot Friedman and David Pagnotta on Hello Hockey earlier today. A great show. Please check it out. And Friedman provided an update on Evander Kane, whose no movement clause expired last night. It is now a modified no trade. Here's what Friedge had to say about Evander Kane.
I want to ask you about the Oilers. Obviously, Evander Kane was supposed to let the Oilers know his situation, or at least they were supposed to figure it out. Have you heard anything on that?
Well, the first thing I'll say about this, I think I've tried to figure out kind of what's going on here with the timeline. And I think that the thing about Evander Kane that everybody has to realize here is that he wants to play. And, this is a guy, and he was hurt at the end of last year, obviously, and he didn't play the last few games of the Stanley Cup final. And I think that I've heard, and I will stress this, I have not spoken to Evander Kane directly, but I have heard from some people I trust that is uppermost in his mind, that he wants to prove that he can be a factor in the playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers. And I think one of the reasons that he has maybe been resistant to not playing before the playoffs is because he wants to show at the end of the regular season that if he can get on the ice, he can be helpful to the Oilers. So I think that's the issue here. I think Edmonton would love it if they could hold him out until the playoffs start, as long as, the timeline's close enough. I think that Kane would like to prove his worth to the team. That's issue number one. I think, as you guys know, also his full no trade expired last night.
Yep.
I believe that a list was submitted to the Oilers indicating where he'd be willing to go and where they can't trade him without his permission. Nobody will confirm that, but I believe that's happened. And I think that is now, over the next couple of days, I think that is now the number one thing the Oilers are going to try to figure out, which is, depending on the timeline, what the market is for him. If they do decide they have to trade him, I think that's where we're looking at here. I think they're doing their due diligence to figure this all out between timeline and what their options are. And, because I do think whether it's LTIR or anything else, I think they want some flexibility. So that's what they're going through now, is to figure out what is the best way to maximize their flexibility.
There you go. That was Elliot Friedman earlier today with Sean Bell and myself on Hello Hockey. An update on Evander Kane. Friedge, to sum it up, believes that Kane his desire is to play in the regular season to show that he's got some jam left and be a factor and a force for the Oilers in the playoffs. And he also believes, Friedman does, that Kane's camp has submitted the players' modified no trade clause list to the team.
That's the big one, man.
Oilers have to get to work. It's crunch time for them here to figure out how to proceed with this.
I don't think they will lose tonight, but if they do, Tom, I mean, the pressure is just going to just get so hot here on this management team.
Yeah.
It's been unreal, these 5 games, and how poorly they've played and how poorly McDavid's been. When he's on the ice, they're leaking goals like crazy, which is unreal, right? It's just unreal. A lot of veterans nights off, like the coach said the other night. You need more from Bush. You need more from a lot of guys, Tom. And Corey B says, no way. Savoy should be in and Skinner should be starting. Got to work out the crap streak. And that's another good one. I mean, are you at all surprised they went with Pickard here?
A little bit. But maybe they're trying to rattle Stu's cage. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or they just want to win and they feel like Pickard could be the guy, or they don't want to give. It's
I
at
mean,
this
maybe
point,
we're
they just want
reading
to win, right?
Yeah. It's let's see what this guy can give us and go from there, right? But the Kane stuff's interesting. A 16 team, no trade.
Yep.
I can't see many suitors, if I'm being honest, especially with his injuries and his recovery. But like you said, Tom, the Oilers need to know what's going on, and they need to know by Friday.
Yep.
Or before that, obviously.
Ideally.
Like LTIR or not, like the Oilers, I mean, if he lands on LTIR, that's helps him immensely. But we'll wait and see.
All right, so there you go. We might save that clip for later on in the show. Walt Ruff will join us. He is going to connect via video, right, Nanso?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when he does, we will get to him. He is a team reporter.
He's later though, right?
No, he's at 4. He's supposed to be coming up right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Cass will be joining us at 4:30.
I sent him the link and all that, so I'm just waiting for him to connect.
Okay, awesome. In the meantime, let's get to your starting lineups brought to you by South Fort Chev. Reserve your 2025 Equinox Trax and Traverse now. They won't last long. They've also got the best discounts on 2025 Silverados, and they won't be beat. See dealer for details, www.southfortchev.com. Drive a little, save a lot, as they like to say at South Fort Chev. You don't like it in general. I'm saying Oil Country doesn't like it, but no changes to the lineup tonight for the Oilers. That means McDavid between Nugent, Hopkins, and Hyman, and Draisaitl centering Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson. Adam Henrique between Matthias Janmark and Connor Brown. On the fourth line, Kasperi Kapanen with Vasily Podkolzin and Corey Perry. On defense, Matthias Ekholm paired up with Evan Bouchard. Brett Kulak with John Klingberg. Troy Stetcher with Ty Emerson. As for the Carolina Hurricanes, Walt Ruff posted this earlier. Sebastian Aho with Andrei Svechnikov and Mikko Rantanen. Jordan Stahl between Jordan Martinook and Seth Jarvis. Tyson Jost with Taylor Hall and Jackson Blake, I should say. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, as we want to get that right, for Jocelyn, and Eric Robinson and Jack Roslovic on the flanks for Kotkaniemi. On defense for the Carolina Hurricanes tonight, Jacob Slavin with Brent Burns. Dmitry Orlov with Jalen Chatfield. Shane Gostisbehere with Sean Walker. Out for the Canes, Riley Stillman. For the Oilers, of course, I will get to the injury situation and keep you posted on that. In goal tonight, what the heck happened here? There we go. There's my lineup. In goal tonight for the Oilers, 32-year-old Calvin Pickard. 14-6 on the season, 269 goals against average, 896 save percentage in 22 games. He's got a 3-0-1 record versus Carolina with a 1.08 GAA, 962 save percentage in 5 games versus Carolina over the course of his career. At the other end of the rink, 35-year-old Freddie Anderson, 6-4 this season, 231 goals against average, 903 save percentage with 1 shutout in 10 games this year. Anderson versus the Oilers, 18-2-2 record, 227 GAA, 925 save percentage in the 23 games he's faced the Oil. I was wrong. It is Cass.
Yeah,
my bad. I'm getting crossed up.
I saw Cass join, so
Yes.
we're gonna roll with Cass. So.
I know, and I apologize to Cass. I've been coordinating like 19 different guests today. It's been a whirlwind. So Cass is standing by with Game Changers. Let's get to your Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy injury report first. At Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy, we treat you like the pros. Our multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. If you have a nagging pain you'd like to see go away, book your consultation today at www.advantagesportsmed.ca. For the Oilers, Darnell Nurse, day-to-day, undisclosed. Alec Regula, IR knee. Evander Kane, LTIR, abdominal surgery, knee surgery. For the Hurricanes, William Carrier, day-to-day, lower body. And Jesper Fast, IR neck. All right, let's bring in the big man. It is our game analyst, Matt Cassian. who brings us Game Changers. Good afternoon, Cass. I'm sorry about the confusion. That's all on me, buddy. But we got it all sorted out.
I just about left. I almost hit the little X in the corner, and I was going to be like, well, that's it. I'm done. Guess it's not me.
He does that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, I'm good. Happy to be here. Happy that it is me. Although I would have been happy with Joaquin Gage as well. And as you said, it's a busy day coordinating. Lots going on. And lots going on for the Edmonton Oilers. Or maybe not lots going on for the Edmonton Oilers, depending on how you're looking at it.
Well, they have a situation they need to take care of. And I don't know if you caught that clip. Did you hear the Elliot Friedman clip that we played from Hello Hockey?
I did not catch it, no.
Okay, I'll sum it up. Friedman says that Kane wants to, the intention, he believes, is that Kane wants to play in the regular season to prove he's got something to give the Oilers in the postseason. Whether or not that happens, obviously his body needs to heal. And then the other thing is with his no movement clause expiring last night, his modified no trade kicks in, and it's believed, at least Friedman said to us, he believes that Kane has submitted his list of teams he'd be willing to be traded to. So
yeah, not overly surprising. Overly surprising. And I think for the Edmonton Oilers, especially coming off the injury, it feels like a little bit of a gamble, doesn't it? To keep Evander Kane around with his cap hit, to say that we think that he's going to be able to play physically at the level we need to coming off of surgeries. Now, if he had a whole summer here to recover additionally, it's a different story heading into the next season, but you're up against the trade deadline here. So yeah, it's not surprising to me that they would ask him or that he would submit the trade list, and we'll have to see. With anything like that, if you want to sell it, you got to have someone on the other end willing to buy it, typically. So yeah, it could create, if he is indeed ready to go, even if it's not at a level that we'd like or the organization would like, creates a little bit of a conundrum here for the Edmonton Oilers to try to figure out exactly how they're going to handle Evander Kane, and if they can move that cap to try to bring in players that are going to help maybe more than he will.
You're right, though. Like, it's dicey what kind of player you get if he does come back, when he does come back, where he's at. Cass, another thing, too, I saw a comment. I can't remember if it was a reply to one of our posts on the Hello Hockey Twitter account or if it was on our Edmonton Sports Talk one, but it was in regard to the Kane news and update from Elliot earlier in the day. And someone said, isn't he supposed to provide a no trade list? Like it's almost an automatic. Is that necessarily the case? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure.
Sides just didn't say anything about it.
Didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you need to. I don't think it's like a mandatory that you have to. But I could be wrong on that. I could try to get some clarification. But I don't have I don't have an educated answer on that for you.
Okay. Well, Elliot believes a list has been submitted to the Oilers from Evander Kane's camp. But let's get into it. Game Changers now with our game analyst, Matt Cassian, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Damon Bunting, consistent top producing realtor in the greater Edmonton area for over 17 years. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Check him out, damonbunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Number one tonight, Cass. I like it. Gap control.
Yeah, gap control. Man, this Carolina team is a really good team, and they play very well at home. One of the best home records in the league, and something that the Oilers have, all these struggle games, and maybe not as much in the game against the Florida Panthers, but coming out of the break, their gap control has been awful. I mean, we've criticized Evan Bouchard endlessly about it, but it's not just him. They have been giving up the zone much too easily against teams, and Carolina is a team that moves the puck well through the neutral zone and carries well, and that gap control, so the distance between the defenseman and the forward, so how much space you are giving him as you're backing up into your own zone, has been way too much coming out of the break. And not just Evan Bouchard, although he's definitely maybe the most glaringly guilty of it, but as a whole, their team gap control hasn't been very good. Now, there's multitude of reasons for it. The forwards turning the puck over in the neutral zone, so the defensemen don't have time to get up the ice before they start back again to control that gap. Turnovers through the neutral zone. But the defensemen also have just been soft on that. Like, they have been soft in just sitting too far back, letting teams gain the zone, and then letting teams enter the zone with possession. And again, against the Carolina team that kind of has a next man up attitude. Like, I know they have skilled players. They have high skilled players, and with Rantanen certainly thrown into the mix, like, they have players that can make plays. But they do have a very much an identity of whoever's over the boards is going to push, is going to skate, and is going to try to play at high tempo. Like, they're a high tempo team. And for the Edmonton Oilers, that gap control just becomes extremely important. I mean, it's always important, but it's even more important against good teams and ones that play well through the neutral zone and that attack aggressively, which Carolina does. It's going to be a challenge for those guys, particularly your top pairing, particularly with Darnell Nurse still injured and out of the lineup. That gap control, Tom, today is crucial. Now, a couple things have to happen in order to do it well. Number one, kind of already mentioned it, no big bad turnovers in the neutral zone, right? Got to continue to get those out of the game. Again, they were a little better against Florida, but they've been terrible. Second would be support coming back. If we look to the Four Nations and we look at one of the reasons that those games are so quick and so high tempo and high pace is the puck support, both offensively and defensively is tremendous. And Edmonton, their forwards have not done a good job of coming back and supporting their defensemen through the middle of the ice to enable them to play with a tighter gap and more gap control. So if they are able to do that, so eliminate some of those neutral zone turnovers and provide better support for their defensemen coming back into their own zone, it's going to go a really long way to eliminating some of the chances that they've been just absolutely bleeding the last number of games.
The worst, most egregious example of poor gap control I could think of immediately is the third goal the Nate Schmidt won in Florida the other day.
Yeah.
And it was Bouchard and Klingberg, and they got crossed. They both went to the side, and Klingberg had to recover, gave too much space, drop pass, boom, off the post and in. Yes, Skinner whiffed on it, stabbed at it.
We didn't like that. Yeah.
I said to Hernan while we were watching that, oh, look at that gap control. Boom, in the net.
Yep.
All right. That was point number one of Game Changers. Number two, I like what you did here, Cass. I like what you did here in honor of the McDavid's location, where you can get a hamburger or a Big Mac and this and that, McNuggets. There's two locations, one in Toronto and one in the Edmonton area, south side, I believe. They were renamed McDavid's. Point number two of Game Changers, Big McDavid.
Yep. Hey, he knows it. We know it. He's talked about it. Media has asked him. Fans have seen it. He's not playing at the level that he was at the Four Nations, and that is up to what he expects of Connor McDavid. But hey, there's always the opportunity with the best player in the world that he snaps out of it, that he finds his legs, he finds his juice, and finds his mojo. Now, he's talked about not deferring. He's talked about having the puck on his stick and playing aggressive and up tempo, and all the things that make him great when he's playing at his best. And he's slipped in some of those areas where he's deferred a little bit more. He hasn't been as aggressive through the neutral zone, and hasn't been as dominant in the offensive zone when there's puck possession time as well, where he hasn't been as threatening. And it's been more perimeter and less attack and create by going to the net and pulling everyone to him before making a play or generating a shot. But hey, again, you're playing a Carolina team that's a really good team and a really good team at home. Great home record, and he's going up against a guy in Slavin who moves incredibly well, and we all saw what he is capable of at the Four Nations, where he is an absolute stud. And it'll be interesting actually to see in this one. That was one of my kind of curious thoughts going into this, where I'm interested to see how Slavin and Burns are deployed. Do they get to play against McDavid, who he had a ton of success against and really hampered at times during the Four Nations, or is that pairing going to play against Leon Draisaitl, who has just continued to roll and continue to be dominant in his own right? So it'll be interesting to see that matchup. But for the Edmonton Oilers, I mean, if we're looking at a guy that needs to turn it around or find a way to get back into that next gear, Connor McDavid's at the top of the list. Now, he's not at the top of the list of players we're disappointed in. He's not at the top of the list in players we want to harp on. He's not at the top of the list in players that have been underperforming consistently all year. But as he said, he hasn't been there. He hasn't been good enough and up to his standard. And an opportunity tonight against a really good team to find that next level again. And for the Edmonton Oilers, if you're looking at guys that you need to bust you out of a slump, well, Connor McDavid is at the top of that list too. So big night for Connor McDavid and the McDavid's brand everywhere to bust out of the slump and to have a nice night. Need some nuggies, right? Give that man some chicken nuggies.
A 10-piece?
For sure.
Absolutely,
without question.
Sweet and sour sauce. Thank you very much. Actually, McDonald's barbecue sauce is good. Or McDavid's barbecue sauce, I should say.
Yeah.
It is Game Changers with our game analyst, Matt Cassian, brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Point number 1 was gap control. You just heard point number 2, which is Big Mac David, in honor and celebration of his McDonald's restaurants being renamed McDavid's, which I thought was a nice touch after a very solid performance at the Four Nations face-off. All right, Cass, point number 3 tonight. Take another step. What do you mean?
Well, and Non-Block said it, you took a little step forward with the Florida game where you played better, but you still didn't play good enough. And that to me was like, that was the step you wanted to see maybe in that Tampa game to bust out of it, right? Even if you would have ended up still losing that one, like where you played a better game, but you still made some mistakes, but you kind of at least started to do some things the right way. And I feel like that's that game against Florida, right? Where, there was a little more energy from the group. There's a little more motivation, it looked like, in the group. And they still made some mistakes that ended up costing them, but at least there was a little bit of jam in that game, a little bit of mojo, a little bit of go, and a little bit of fight, which, had been largely just non-existent coming out of the break. And for today, for the Edmonton Oilers, Tom, I mean, you got to take another step. Again, you're playing another really good team in the Carolina Hurricanes that plays aggressive, that plays fast, that, has some defensemen that jump into the rush and can burn you on zone entries, which has happened to the Oilers again and again. But an opportunity to take that next step forward, like, is tonight the night finally where we see them overcome this sloppiness and the slowness that has just plagued them since coming out of the break, Tom. You have to take another step forward. Can't have the mistakes. Why is Kappen in the lineup? I don't know.
Cass, people texting in saying, is that a Bozone Live hat, Cass? Cass, what does your hat say? And a lot of people saying that is a loud look for you, Cass. Like, is that
it is a loud one, and I think my light makes it worse. That's right here to make sure that it's not too dark in the room.
Or is it honor of my?
No, it says Miracle. It could be a Bozone hat. It would work well in that regard. I feel like you could hunt with this. I feel like it would be acceptable in the hunting community, but it says Miracle, so it's not a Bozone hat. But yeah, I probably grabbed it because it was loud, and I'm like, I'm gonna wear this today and be obnoxious because why not?
Did you just do a head flick? There it is. Cass, good stuff as always, pal. I'll see you on the post-game show.
Sounds good, buddy.
There is Matt Cassian, our game analyst with Game Changers, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Check them out if you're looking to buy or sell your home or get into the market. Check them out, damonbunting.com or Damon Bunting Real Estate on Instagram. Damon Bunting now with the agency. Good dude. Check him out. All right. We're going to get down to Raleigh right away here. Keep those texts coming in. 780-218-9999. If you're listening on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, EdmontonSportsTalk.com's audio player, we appreciate you. Text us 780-218-9999. And then if you're watching on YouTube, get to the nasty chat on this Saturday, late afternoon, early evening, as we get set for the Oilers and the Canes. The Oilers looking to snap a 5-game losing streak. Carolina coming off a win over Buffalo. All right, let's welcome in our next guest. It is Walt Ruff, team reporter for the Carolina Hurricanes, as we get set for tonight's action. I don't know, I used as many Storm puns as I could off the top of the show, Walt, because, it fits in with the team that the Oilers are playing against. And it is not calm over here. The waters are rough. The clouds are dark. It's gloomy. There's thunder and lightning, proverbially or metaphorically, around here. How is it in Carolina? I know the Canes had a tough go recently, but they are coming off a win.
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it. Somewhat similar things could be said here about Carolina. A team had a tough go in February, 2-5 in the month. Really struggled on the road. Really good at home lately. That's what it boils down to. I think that there's some more that they can get out of some guys. Obviously, Mikko Rantanen has been the discussion amongst the whole hockey world, and
yes.
We're still seeing him settle in here, but he had a great night on Thursday, his first multi-point game here in Carolina. So I think the optimism going into tonight is that hopefully he can keep that progress moving forward.
How important was that win? I know it was the Sabres, but I think, when things aren't going well, you just want to get back into a good feel, and a win does that. What were some of the things that the Canes did to kind of nip that little losing stretch in the bud?
Yeah, it was huge. First and foremost, I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fight right off the opening faceoff. You've got a guy in Jesperi Kotkaniemi who no one saw this coming, Tom. I mean, right off the opening bat, he said, I don't get to start a whole lot, and we needed a spark after really 2 duds of games in Toronto and Montreal. So comes home and gets the nod, asks Dylan Cousins right off the bat, and the two went at it. And I think that it legitimately did provide a spark because, again, that's not a guy who you'd really expect that from. The Canes don't have anybody who's going to really go out there and drop the gloves on any whim's notice. So the fact that it was him really, I think, gave the group a jump, and they followed it up with basically 3 goals in 3 minutes after. So they got a great start. Starts have been not a strong suit of this team as of late. So that obviously allowed them to play with the lead as opposed to chasing games, which we've seen them a lot lately. So I know that the start is something that Rod Brind'Amour really wants to hone in on here again tonight.
Walt, let's talk about Mikko Rantanen. Yes, he is getting a lot of attention. I know the Canes that made a monster. That deal was huge, and it caught a lot of people off guard. Good move by Eric Tulsky, obviously. People want to know his future. I'm sure we could speculate, but how is he fitting in with this Carolina team? It is a tough situation because of the Four Nations face-off and being caught off guard and all of that. But what's your sense of the player as he tries to kind of get his feet kind of settled here?
Yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, all the factors that have gone into this situation haven't made it any easier on him. And then you could also supplement by saying tonight's his 10th game as a Hurricane and just his 3rd at home. So he hasn't really spent a whole lot of time in Raleigh. And we're talking about a player who's eligible for an 8-year extension, obviously going to be close to the $100 million ballpark. And you're asking him to take this huge contract when I think if you actually break down the numbers, given that he was at the Four Nations as well, I think he spent 6 total days in North Carolina so far. So it's kind of unfair to put that pressure on him, but it is a business at the end of the day. And obviously, with all of the revolving parts around him, I think that there are some people who want answers. And I think he's leaning into okay, we would like some patience with this approach. And I think the Hurricanes are certainly understanding of that. As far as his on the ice play, it takes time to get used to Rod Brind'Amour's system. It's a forechecking, heavy identity type team, and it's a little bit different from what Jared Bednar does in Colorado. So it's going to take some time for him to get adjusted to. Every time the Canes bring in a free agent, like when Michael Bunting was here for a very short time, and I know that Michael Bunting and Mikko Rantanen are not exactly apples to apples, but a lot of players are candid about saying that it does take time to get used to Rod Brind'Amour's system. It's a lot of skating. You got to be willing to change your ways a little bit. And right now we're still finding out if that's something that Mikko Rantanen is interested in doing. And I think that he's adjusting to that game here as we get further and further, I should say maybe closer and closer to Friday's deadline.
Hey, multi-point game for Rantanen, and this a tough time to ask for patience, but I think everybody wants to do their due diligence in a situation that's as crucial as this. Another guy that came over in part of that deal was Taylor Hall. We know him well from his time as an Oiler, obviously first overall pick in 2010. I know him from his 6 years here. He scored his first goal as a Cane. I should say Whaler the other night. Those uniforms are beautiful to see. The bandanas during warm-up were absolutely fantastic. But what about Taylor Hall? How is his role evolving as a member of this Canes team? Because he is a veteran that has done some pretty darn good things in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It has been an evolving role for Taylor. He started obviously a little bit lower down in the lineup when he first came aboard, and the team's still trying to find out where he's going to fit within this lineup. Tonight he's going to be playing alongside Tyson Jost and Jackson Blake. So you've got a guy who was up and down between the American League and the National League last year in Jost, and then Jackson Blake, who's a 21-year-old rookie. So he's kind of looked at as one of the pieces to lead that line, if you will. And we know that Mikko Rantanen and Sebastian Aho are kind of going to be a package deal. They're always going to be together with an interchangeable third winger. Tonight it's going to be Andrei Svechnikov. Will we see Taylor Hall there at some point? Maybe so. Who knows? But Taylor Hall scored as well, like you mentioned, on Thursday. So there's hope, like Rantanen, like there's more in store. It's only 2 points in 9 games for Taylor Hall, but plays an important part up front, obviously. And they're trying to get him going on the second power play unit. The power play as a whole has not been great down here as of late. So I think Rod Brindamore really likes what he's going to try and get out of Taylor Hall, but that still, too, is a work in progress.
Walt Ruff joining us now, covering the Carolina Hurricanes as we get set for the Canes and Oilers, closing out the season series. Carolina beating Edmonton in a close one in October. Okay, Freddie Anderson has been an absolute, I usually say Oilers killer, but he is murdiddly-erd the Oilers over the course of his career, to use a Simpsons reference. 18-2-2, Walt. Like, I remember that we'd go into Anaheim and I'd be with the team, and you knew when Freddie Anderson was starting and the Ducks were excellent, the Oilers had no chance. And then Anderson has his way with the Oilers as a Maple Leaf. It's been pretty good in his time in Carolina. I know he's dealt with some health issues. How's he holding up? He's only played a handful of games this season, and what are they expecting from Freddie Anderson?
Yeah, Freddie missed a huge chunk of time there from November until the middle of January. But now that he's finally back in the mix, I think that, it provides the team with some stability. When he's in there, he's pretty good. But, of course, that's been the biggest issue over his now 4 years as a Hurricane. On Tuesday night in Montreal, he became the first Hurricanes goalie this season to drop 3 decisions in a row all year. So I guess you can take that with 2 different directions. You can say, well, it's great that they didn't have a goalie drop 3 in a row all season. Unfortunately, the fact is happening. One of those starts sandwiched in between there in Minnesota. He only gave up 2, so it was a bit of a tough luck loss. Tuesday night in Montreal, it was 2 tips and redirections off of lost net front battles by the guys in front of him, and then 2 power play goals. So I don't think you can directly look at Frederik Andersen, point a finger at him and say, he hasn't been up to par. Have there been some during this 3-game stretch that he would have liked to have had? Of course, any goalie would tell you that. So, hopefully for the Canes' sake, they can get some more of that 18-2-2 juice out of him, and hopefully he continues to roll against the Oilers, because you're right. I don't know that, we see numbers of any netminder all that often have a team against any team like that.
Oilers fans are sitting there going, yeah, well, Calvin Pickard's 3-0-1 versus the Hurricanes over his career in the 5 games he's played them. I'm kidding, of course. So Walt Ruff with us, team reporter for the Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, I mentioned we didn't see Carolina for a while here. I think it was October 22nd, if I remember off the top of my head, when the Canes were in town. How would you define this club's identity, Walt, going into the stretch drive? Because teams can change in these last, 23 games of a season, especially with new faces coming in at the deadline. But what is this Canes identity? Has it changed over the years?
Over the years, Rod Brindamore's system remains largely the same, but I think even going back to that matchup in October, yes, it has changed. A big part of that win was Martin Necas, who's now a member of the Colorado Avalanche, right? So much like we've already talked about, it's finding the fit and finding how Mikko Rantanen and Taylor Hall are going to fit. As you could predict, those are 2 guys who, if you're going to have success as a team, you're going to need those guys going up front. So that's a huge part of what's going to be these final 20-ish games for the Carolina Hurricanes as they try and get toward the Stanley Cup playoffs. They had a great start this season, 16-5-1, and honestly, it's been a lot of up and down since. It's pretty close to 500 since then, so on one hand, they're grateful that they got off to the start that they did, but we've seen some duds. The power play's got to be a lot better, so those are 2 things that the team is looking forward to, but we see a performance then like we did Thursday night against the Sabres. And yes, it's the Sabres, but they were 6-1 coming to Raleigh in their last 7. So it just felt like they had the whole package playing together, where they're forechecking well, special teams and the power play got a goal, which is always welcomed, especially this time of year. We know that in April, May, and June, they can make or break a series as well. So finding consistency is the big key for Carolina here over the last month and a half.
I should add, the Canes PK is rock solid, 84%, second in the NHL going into action today. All right, Walt, what kind of hockey game do you think we're going to see down in Raleigh tonight?
Tom, I'm not 1,000% sure, honestly, and I say that because of the way that the Canes have played, right? If both teams play to their abilities, I think we're going to get a fantastic game like we did in October, but obviously we know the Oilers have had some struggles recently, and the Canes have been up and down, so which version of each team are we going to get? I think that's what's going to dictate things. Like you guys were talking about in the last segment, I'm super eager to see what the matchup game is like. We know Rod Brindamore is all about that on home ice. Will we get Slavin against McDavid again, or do you put him on Draisaitl? So right. I don't know how it's going to go, but I think I'm really looking forward to it.
Likewise, Walt, really appreciate the time tonight, my friend, and we'll have to do this again. This was great.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
That's Walt Ruff, team reporter for the Carolina Hurricanes. Great stuff from him. Oilers and Canes tonight. Which Oilers team shows up? Which Canes team shows up? Both teams struggling of late, looking to get back into their groove in the winning ways as they're used to. Both teams with the identical 34-20 and 4 or 21-4 record. Game number 60 for the Oilers and Canes. You could text us 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat if you're watching on YouTube. Nancito, what you got? I saw some texts coming in. I saw some nasty chats. What are you seeing?
Scalding Gore, that Sebastian for Carolina is a real aho.
Wait. I love this thing.
It's clever. Very clever.
I love this thing.
Maple Jet, 2 thoughts.
What?
Savoy won't be in the lineup for game 1 of the playoffs, so the lineup that will needs to figure their way out of this slump. Good point.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I don't agree with this though. Could Savoy be a trade chip? No. I mean, you didn't trade a young centerman, Ryan McLeod, for a very top-notch prospect to just trade him away.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you never know.
I doubt it. Highly doubt it. I mean, Akey, Savoy, O'Reilly. Like, I think after what happened with Broberg and Holloway, I don't think the Oilers want to.
No. And they don't have much, right?
Well, yeah.
In terms of guys like Savoy with that skill set. So, no, I don't. Why isn't Savoy playing tonight? Well, because they're on a 5-game losing streak and he wants to go with his vets. And a lot of coaches do this, guys. It's not just the Edmonton Oilers. So, and I mean, you don't have to agree with it. I mean, but I like
we agree with that texter. We both said today, we would have played Savoy today.
I would. Cass said it too. Why is Kapanen in this lineup? He's not a centerman, first of all.
No.
He played 8 minutes last game.
Right.
I mean, I from what I've seen from Savoy, he does pretty much what Kapanen can do and probably at a higher level right now. So I don't get it, but I mean, because we don't know what happens behind the closed doors there. And he wasn't happy with a few players, more than a few. He said, we had a few passengers and we can all assume who they were. I mean, he's going to give Adam Henrique, Connor Brown, the benefit of the doubt. He is.
Yeah.
And I know that's not what fans want to hear, but he is. And he's going to put more trust in those guys than he is a guy like Matt Savoy at this point in his career. That's just the simple way of looking at it. Like if we're going to get out of the slump, it's going to be my vets. It's not going to be a young guy playing in his fifth game of the season in the NHL. Sorry.
In a time of turmoil, if you will. This is the most turmoil this season the Oilers have had, despite the 0-3 start to the season. I think this, at the time of the year where this is happening, how it's happened, certainly more of a dilemma, if you will, compared to the start of the season. Let's go to Maple Jet, who texts in. Says 2 thoughts for the question of the night, which was Hernan.
Yeah, that's the Savoy. Do you think he should be in the lineup?
Yes.
Especially after some players on this team had some very, very, very bad nights. And That's the one I was just reading off from Maple Jed, Tommy. Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
No worries. I just so we don't read the same text.
My bad. I messed that up.
Now, Tom, listen, is Savoy going to change Is he going to come in and change this team? No, like we need to pump the brakes too on that. Like if the Oilers are going to win tonight, it's going to take Connor McDavid being at his best, and he hasn't even been close. It's that third line needs to show up. Hyman, Nuge, where are you? Do you know what I mean? It's been nothing but Leon Draisaitl so far. So for me, it's one of those things where I understand why he wants Savoy in the lineup, but I mean, he's not going to come in and flip this game on its head, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's still fairly young, finding his groove, but I still would have liked to see him, but it's not the difference between winning and losing tonight is Matt Savoy.
All right, let's get to this one from Shaggy in St. Albert. I knew I had one that we hadn't read yet that I wanted to get to. Good to hear from Shaggy. He's been in the nasty chat a lot, but in the text line as well. On the pregame, Shaggy says, if Evander Kane blocks the Oilers from cap flexibility for trade deadline, that will reinforce that he's not a team player. If he plays in game 80 and sucks, he will feel the fans' wrath. Only way he ever gets cheered again is if he helps the team win the cup. Have more confidence in Reed's prognostication skills than Hernan. Book it, 0-5 road trip. I think Hernan's just trying to be positive.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? I'm just like Stuart Skinner, but from the EST.
Then you're not chuckling. That really got people going. We talked a lot about that yesterday because it pissed people off.
It did.
He's a very positive guy, like overly positive.
I want to say this about Evander Kane. It's not Evander Kane's job to help this team with the roster. That's not his role. I'm sorry. It's not. If he wants to play and he feels like he can help, that's his right. Like, this is not on Evander Kane, the roster construction and the money needed and, they don't have enough. That's not on Evander Kane, Tom. Some people may disagree with me, but that's not his problem.
The roster construction.
His problem is getting fit enough to play and help this team. And if that's in game 79 or into the playoffs, that's up to him. He's the player, and he has a choice in this too. Mm-hmm. It's not his call to be like, well, I'm going to help the Oilers go get a defenseman because they kind of blew it in the offseason. That's not his problem. Sorry.
True. We have the clip. Can we run it again? Do you need a second?
Yeah, just give me 2 shakes of a lamb's tail and whenever you're ready.
All right, here is a Evander Kane update and a Evander Kane update from Elliot Friedman from earlier today on Hello Hockey with myself and Sean Bell. For those wondering, about his no movement clause and everything, here's the latest from Friedge from today's Hello Hockey.
I want to ask you about the Oilers. Obviously, Evander Kane was supposed to let the Oilers know his situation, or at least they were supposed to figure it out. Have you heard anything on that?
Well, the first thing I'll say about this, I think I've tried to figure out kind of what's going on here with the timeline. And I think that the thing about Evander Kane that everybody has to realize here is that he wants to play. Mm-hmm. And, this is a guy, and he was hurt at the end of last year, obviously, and he didn't play the last few games of the Stanley Cup final. And I think that I've heard, and I will stress this, I have not spoken to Evander Kane directly, but I have heard from some people I trust that is uppermost in his mind, that he wants to prove that he can be a factor in the playoffs for the Edmonton Oilers. And I think one of the reasons that he has maybe been resistant to not playing before the playoffs is because he wants to show at the end of the regular season that if he can get on the ice, he can be helpful to the Oilers. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the issue here. I think Edmonton would love it if they could hold him out until the playoffs start, as long as, the timeline's close enough. I think that Kane would like to prove his worth to the team. That's issue number one. I think, as you guys know, also his full no trade expired last night.
Yep.
I believe that a list was submitted to the Oilers indicating where he'd be willing to go and where they can't trade him without his permission. Nobody will confirm that, but I believe that's happened. And I think that is now, over the next couple of days, I think that is now the number one thing the Oilers are going to try to figure out, which is, depending on the timeline, what the market is for him, if they do decide they have to trade him, I think that's where we're looking at here. I think they're doing their due diligence to figure this all out between timeline and what their options are. And because I do think whether it's LTIR or anything else, I think they want some flexibility. So that's what they're going through now, is to figure out what is the best way to maximize their flexibility.
That was Elliot Friedman with Sean Bell and myself on Hello Hockey earlier today. You could check it out on wherever you get your podcasts. It's going to run again today on Sportsnet Radio down in Calgary. I think it got preempted because of the Flames game, an early Flames game against the Panthers. And then, of course, you can watch it on YouTube, and you can see Friedge. Friedge was with us off the top of the show, had to leave to break the trade. Colorado and New York making earlier in the day, and then came back later on and gave us the full scoop of Evander Kane. There's a lot more in there as well. Dave Pagnotta, our Hello Hockey Insider, did provide a lot of information as well on the NHL and expansion, because as much as the NHL, oh no, we're not looking to expand, that is a bold-faced lie. They absolutely are. So there's Friedge on Kane, and I've seen a few people say, like, of course he had to submit his list. Listening to Elliot again there, where he goes, I believe that he's provided it, hasn't been confirmed. Why would Elliot say he believes, but it hasn't been confirmed, that he's provided his list now that the no move has been modified, if it's mandatory or automatic? Because there's some people out there like, oh, didn't you know? First of all, I don't think everybody knows. The CBA changes. Contracts, different guys have different situations and stipulations in there. And so, like, it's just, here's information. Process it.
But there can't be this, like, listen, there's a lot of noise around that Kane's kind of doing what he wants with this situation, but the Oilers gotta, I mean, they're in the know of what he's thinking. Like, there's no way they're going into this week saying, Kane, what's up? Like,
Hernan, I am of that same rationale.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to people within the organization, I'm like, come on, like, are we doing the Stone? Is this the Kane, Kucherov, Patrick Kane situation with Chicago? And every time for people I am friends with, trust, will tell me things. They'll tell me on the record if I can put it out there, or if it's completely off the record, or if they're like, I can't get into that. Those types of people that I trust, that I've known for years and years and years and years. And they're like, we don't know. We don't know. Yeah. That's what's so frustrating, is like, we kind of have an idea of where he's at. He does check in. He's doing his rehabilitation process. Oh, by the way, look at that. He needs knee surgery now. How does that affect it? Well, we think it's this. But there is not a concrete answer. And I think what Elliot brought up today on the show reinforces that. It's still kind of like, we think, but we're not 100% sure, because maybe he thinks and he's not 100% sure. So it's almost like this cat and mouse game, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I mean, we're going to know this week.
You have to.
Yeah. It's plain and simple.
Comes to a head in one way or another.
Yeah. We'll find out. We'll know soon enough. And again, I agree. You need that LTIR money, but I mean, if he doesn't want to, I mean, everybody's saying, well, Stone did it. Well, sure, but
it goes back to what some people were saying. Like, Kane has to be focused on what's best for him and his health and his career.
Exactly.
Listen, it is always best for the team if a player puts the team ahead of himself.
Of course, but
that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, and it's not Evander Kane's fault that they have no money to make moves at the deadline.
That is not his fault.
That's not Evander Kane's fault. That's the people that are in charge of the management. Tommy, we are a sports station. I just want to throw this big NFL trade coming down the pipe. 49ers have traded Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders for a 5th-round pick. That's coming down from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport. So sounds like Deebo on his way to join Jaden Daniels. So we'll see what happens there. Just wanted to update everybody.
How do you feel as a 49ers fan?
good riddance. I mean, this guy injury prone. Last year he was a bad teammate.
Yeah, he was poopy pants,
He
wasn't
got
he?
in the face of Jake Moody when he was having a really rough day, and then when he had a rough day, you couldn't say anything to him. And
He was like this.
I can't take it anymore.
yeah, so time to move on. Time to move on. It got stale there with Deebo Samuel. That's my opinion. Maybe some 49ers fans elsewhere will feel different, but I mean, now you have more cap space too, so you can address different positions, and we'll see what happens. But he was a good player early on, and I think last year he tailed off. And like I said, a lot of negativity surrounded that guy when he was with the 49ers last year. So I for one I'm totally okay with this one.
You're saying good riddance as a 49ers fan. Really quickly, there was that one game going into it where they were going to need to count on him, I remember. And wasn't he like tweeting about how good he was going to be, and his first pass was a drop?
Yep.
Like a horrendous
Well, he caught
drop.
it. Would have been a first down, like in the red zone, and he dropped it.
Yeah.
Like
That's-
no one around him or anything. Yeah.
It's like, it's going to be one of those games, isn't it? All right. A couple texts really quickly to wrap things up here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Hersey says, good afternoon, fellas. This could be a hot take in Edmonton, but Savoy will end up a bit better than Yamamoto, but will ultimately have the same result. Give the guy 10 to 20 games before we start making projections. Maple Jet asking which Oiler prospects are completely off limits at this deadline. I mean, I think the inclination is to not give up any prospects the way that they have in recent years. So, but are you in win now mode, and how much are you willing to sacrifice for that?
Yeah.
That's tough. Mike in Thunder Bay texting in says Kane's list is probably 15 teams with cap space to take him on, and the Sharks with no cap space. I've heard people tell me, or I've had people tell me, and they think that he would provide a list of teams that couldn't take him on to kind of make it difficult.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The information, it's like this.
This is like an anaconda taking down a pig.
Right? It is trade
Really
deadline
is, yeah.
week. Oh, that's going to do it for the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. The Oilers looking to snap a 5-game losing streak. The Carolina Hurricanes just 2 wins in their last 6. Scalding Gord says 7-1 Oilers loss.
Come
Scalding
on, let's have a little
Gord.
bit of faith here. Oilers win 5-1.
5-1, Hernan says. Canes 2 wins in their last 7. I should correct myself. Edmonton wrapping up a 5-game Eastern Conference road trip. Big thank you to Walt Ruff, team reporter for the Carolina Hurricanes, and to everybody who listened and watched. We appreciate you so very, very much. For Matt Cassian and Hernan Salas, I'm Tom Gazzola saying enjoy the Oilers and the Hurricanes. We'll see you on the postgame show.